Welcome once again, race fans, to Long Pond, Pennsylvania in practice for the Sprint Cup Series. A day of rain has given way to sunshine at the tricky triangle, the Pocono Raceway, and we are ready to see NASCAR's finest do battle with this racetrack today and get ready for 500 miles of racing on Sunday, which we hear is going to be sunny as well. Hello, everybody. I'm John Roberts here at the Speed Stage. Thanks for being with us today. Let's take a look at the menu because there's a lot of cars on the racetrack today and some racing coming your way. We're going to start out in just a matter of moments with Sprint Cup practice, and then after that, Sprint Cup final practice at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. The ARCA Pocono 200 then takes center stage at 400. But now for practice, let's toss it up to the booth and Steve Burns.
Beautiful blue skies in stark contrast to the damp and chilly weather we had here yesterday in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. The first of two practices here on Speed. Cars getting ready to get on this 2.5-mile triangular super speedway. Everything was washed out yesterday, practice and qualifying. Good morning, everybody. Glad you're with us. Steve Burns, Larry McReynolds, and Jeff Hammond. Jeff, this is a very important practice. This is the first time these cars have been on this racetrack, which is a chore to set up for.
It really is, Steve. I mean, the thing about Pocono, we talk about how unique it is, the fact that it's got 3 different corners, and the fact that it's got long straightaways. I mean, it's very complicated, and the key thing is, I think a lot of people overlook the fact you go down these long straightaways, well, you got to get the car checked up to get in the corner. Brakes are important. The racetrack is rough. Harsh winters up here makes this place very, very difficult as far as shock's concerned. So during this first practice, Steve, they're going to really be focusing in on trying to get these cars balanced, make them where they can make the drivers happy getting into the turns, and try to ride these bumps.
We had a harsh winter here yesterday.
Well, we did. We had a lot of weather, but you know, in the big picture, we're halfway through the race to the chase. 13 down and 13 to go with a lot of unique racetracks in this summer stretch. Jeff talked about this race here at Pocono. And when I look at the big picture, the Sprint Cup Series points, you think about Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, Ryan Newman, Kurt Busch, those guys in the top 5, they're breathing a little bit easy. But when I look at that battle from 6th to 17th, separated by only 198 points, and the fact that 2 of the big names that are outside of that top 16, top 17, like Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Kevin Harvick, they've got a lot of work to do. They've got to roll their sleeves up because, let me tell you, the clock is ticking, even though there's 13 races to go.
Guys, we line up by order of car owner points since qualifying was washed out. Tony Stewart said that he's extremely happy about that because he will start in P1. There's Jimmy Johnson. He starts in row 2.
And Steve, right quick, let me take a look at Jimmy Johnson, 3-time defending champion, twice a winner here. When you talk about the way this thing is lining up, can you imagine the first 2 rows? We've got 10 championships between those 4 cars and 9 wins here at Pocono because Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon, who leads them all right now as far as active drivers with 4 wins. Jimmy Johnson, he's got a couple. And Kurt Busch up there, they've all won championships. They've all won races. So you've got a real strong starting front rows. I mean, it's really going to be impressive when they drop the green flag coming here Sunday. Exactly, you know, who's going to lead that first lap?
This will be the 63rd NASCAR Sprint Cup race here at Pocono. And Larry, it's kind of hard to dispute with these numbers. 44 of the races have been won from a top 10 starting position. And in fact, the pole sitter has won this race on 12 occasions.
Well, I think it's one of those tracks, and I think Jeff will relate to this over the years. If you came here and you had a fast car in qualifying, you normally kept a fast race car into the race. The setup is different a little bit between qualifying and the race, but not as significant as maybe like at Dover last week or at Lowe's Motor Speedway or at Michigan next week. It's just slight, subtle changes to get the car ready for the long runs versus what would be a qualifying lap here.
And the other thing is, Steve, even though this thing's got a long front straightaway, it's somewhat difficult to pass on. If a guy gets out in front, it's a little bit like a road course. If he can hit his marks, he can hold you off down through the short chute in the Long Pond straightaway, across the tunnel turn. He can hold you off until you get you back over on the front straightaway. And if he's got any kind of an engine in that car, it's very difficult sometimes to get a run on him to get back by him. Even though this front straightaway, I mean, it is long all the way down this thing to turn 1. I mean, you got plenty of room to make a run, but you got to get off of turn 3 and build it up.
Over 3,700 feet in this Long Pond straightaway. And Larry, talking to Chad Canals Monday on This Week in NASCAR, he talked about brakes being more of an issue here at Pocono.
Well, there's no question. I mean, everywhere we go with this new car, being heavier on the right side, a higher center of gravity, seems like it has magnified brake issues. But Jeff just talked about the speed that you carry down this front straightaway where we see Tony Stewart in the 14 right now. And you're going down there and you're almost making more than a 90-degree turn and you're jumping on those brakes. And remember, this is a 500-mile race, 200 laps. You're using your brakes 3 times a lap versus twice at most racetracks we go to.
The other big story this weekend has nothing to do with the cars themselves, but NASCAR has implemented a big rules change. We will see double file restarts, shootout style from here on out.
Oh, it's going to be interesting, and I think they picked a great place to start this new procedure here at Pocono. I think it gives these guys a great opportunity to kind of test it out. And guys like Tony Stewart, and here we're looking at Jeff Gordon, they all are supportive of it. I think NASCAR has made a great call. They've all said that they agree because of the fact the fans wanted to see something a little bit different. Couldn't have picked a better place to come do it, could he, Larry?
Well, I think we need to give the 3 or 4 bullet points that goes with this rule change. Every start of a restart will be just like the start of the race. It will be double file, and you cannot pass until you get to the start-finish line, just like the start of the race. There's a little bit of a tweak with the free pass. Now the free pass is available all the way to the end of the race. No longer 10 laps to go does it go away. But I think the biggest thing, and we're going to go to Ralph here just shortly, the biggest thing is now, if you get back to where we were at Dover last week, when we got in the middle of green flag pit stops and a caution came out, and we had those 4 or 5 cars at the tail end of the lead lap. When we get the 1 to go, those cars that are between the pace car and the leader will get a wave by. They get to go by the pace car all the way around the racetrack, tackle in the rear of the field. So in most cases, what this is going to do, the leader of the race will always be up at the front.
Joining us in the garage, our good friend, Ralph Shaheen.
Hi guys, how's everybody doing up there today? You know, I was talking with Steve Letarte just before the start of this practice session, and you would think with the loss of practice yesterday, some guys might be scrambling here today. Actually, it's quite the opposite. Steve said that most of the time they were in full qualifying trim yesterday, so they don't really lose anything. In fact, he says, we save a few laps on the engine. Now, on the flip side, as they get into practice here today, this car, the 24 Jeff Gordon, a little bit loose. Jeff's pretty happy with the majority of the car, except for the fact that it's loose. But what was really funny was when Letarte said all the guys who were deep in the points, they're the ones that are telling you, you know what, if we'd have had qualifying today, I'd have had you, Lindsey, because I had the setup.
Ralph, you know, another guy that thinks he might have the setup is Denny Hamlin. This is a brand new car he brings here, but everybody knows they could use a little bit of luck, this team, basically, because the past 5 races, they've been out of the top 10. Denny, like I said, brings a brand new car, but if there's anywhere where he can really turn that luck around, it's here at Pocono, where he's won twice. In fact, yesterday, during the rain, when a lot of people were leaving the track, he took the opportunity to take his teammate Joey Logano around in a pace car in the rain to try to give him a feel and make him familiar with this track. So Denny hopes this is where he can turn things around. Right now, he's pretty quiet. They feel pretty comfortable with this car, guys.
Thank you, Lindsey. Denny Hamlin swept both races here in 2006. Right now, Jimmy Johnson, the fastest, followed by Ryan Newman, Newman's teammate Tony Stewart, and Denny Hamlin.
Well, right now, Steve, a lap ago, watching up in turn 3, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. came in to that corner right there. He's following the 1-car Mark Truex Jr. He gets up a little bit high, and guys, he got so close to hitting that safer barrier. He missed the groove. I think he came in there a little bit hot, got on the brakes, and the car just, I mean, the nose just slid. We're on board with him right now. And you see that black strip right there? If you miss it, this is what happens, especially early on.
And you know, Jeff, it's interesting because we saw this new patch of asphalt. It's a strip of asphalt through turn 3 that when we showed up here a year ago, they had put that down, and that's where everybody runs, because why? You have the most grip. Before that patch, you'd run right around the bottom. You'd almost clip the grass down in turn 3, and everybody realized, hey, this new patch of asphalt, it has a lot more grip. But when Dale Earnhardt Jr. got off that asphalt, there's basically no grip.
No grip, and again, he was very lucky to be able to keep that car out of the wall. Take a look right now at Joey Logano, and he's got his hands full inside that car. That number 20 car, he is currently 25th. But guys, he's trying to do the double duty this weekend to get some experience. He's running both the ARCA as well as the Sprint Cup Series, so he at least got a little bit of seat time early this morning.
Here's a surprise. He was fastest in ARCA practice.
Really?
Who knew? Hey, stay with us here at Pocono. We'll be right back. Today, Speed presents the Rolex Sports Car Series. 6 hours at the Glen to claim victory here. Racers must endure treacherous twists and turns. Don't miss the Rolex Sports Car Series live today, 2 Eastern, only on Speed. Meanwhile, NASCAR Sprint Cup Series practice, the first of 2 today, continues here at Pocono, Pennsylvania. Glad you're with us. Jimmy Johnson is the quickest. You see Jeff Gordon, he is 6th. Now, guys, moments ago, Regan Smith in the 78 car had a very close call.
About as close as it's going to get. You see, and this is coming off of turn 1, headed down the Long Pond Straight. And you'll see this view here. He actually doesn't touch the wall, but the paint's kind of scaly on the wall. It was close enough, it blew it off. But we've been seeing this over the last few years where the cars really take the high line through turn 1. For years and years, because of these straightaways being different lengths to maximize the RPM, Jeff was talking about the length of these straightaways, we used to shift here to maximize the RPM. Now you can't run overdrive, nobody shifts, we pull a 389 gear. What I've been told is these guys run the high line off turn 1 to try to keep the engine wound up.
And that's all well and good, Steve, as long as you don't floor it out there too far. But the good thing about it right now, we know that at least that area of the racetrack's been cleaned off by Regan Smith in the 78. Now we're taking a look at Mr. Busch, Mr. Kurt Busch in the 2 car.
2-time winner here.
You know, I was talking about him at the top of the show of being one of the guys that seems to right now probably be able to breathe a little bit, sitting there 4th in the points. When you think about it, at this point 1 year ago, Kurt Busch was pretty much already out of it. He was 21st in points a year ago. So what a difference it's been, not only for the 2 car, but for Penske Racing across the board.
And Larry, you have to think that what they've been doing all year long, running this new Dodge engine, it's going to help them, especially in a place like this here, because you need the bottom end torque. You need it for the car to accelerate. And, you know, it should help this group right here tremendously as far as compared to last year. And again, Kurt does so well up here. We know he's got 2 wins, but I mean, he's a finesseful type of driver, and it takes that kind of a feel to be able to get around this place. And he's not afraid to get up on the wheel and get after it.
You know what's amazing? We don't have a lot of cars out on the racetrack right now. I think it's because of what you said earlier, Steve. You know, this is the first time they've been on the track. We only have that hour and 45 minutes total between the 2 practices, so you get a feel that everybody's in the garage area making changes pretty frantically. The tire combination we have here, it's essentially the same right side tire that we raced here a year ago, but the left side tire, it's the same compound, it's the same grip, but it's that new construction on the left side that supposedly gives the car more left side grip.
Heard Pat Tryson right there relaying some information to his driver.
Kurt Busch, 28th overall right now. You see Matt Kenseth.
He's currently 20th quickest in this practice session.
You know, Steve, just going back one more time, because I think it's going to be up to us to really help the fan understand this double file restart shootout style. And trust me, it's going to be a work in progress and a learning experience for everyone, for us as broadcasters, for the teams, and for NASCAR. But this is going, I like the timing. You're doing it at 2 racetracks that are big racetracks. Here this week at Pocono, next week at Michigan, because we have never had double file restarts to any degree at road courses other than the start of the race. Well, this rule is also at a road course like Infineon in 2 weeks. And what I was also told by Robin Pemberton with NASCAR, not this weekend, but in the very near future, this procedure will also be used in the Nationwide Series and the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series.
Well, if it's good for the goose, it should be good for the gander.
It should be good for everybody.
Yeah,
I'm excited about it. Really am.
And congratulations, while we mentioned the Camping World Truck Series, to Todd Bodine. He won last night. I believe that was his 17th career victory. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is back on the racetrack, 17th right now, just behind, in terms of timing and scoring, Clinton Boyer, and ahead of David Reagan.
You know, Steve, I think the other thing we should mention, you know, the field was set per the NASCAR rulebook the second time in 2009. We actually had 46 cars here. The cars that did not make the show was Derek Cope, Mike Wallace, and Tony Raines. This is going through turn 3. Turn 3, very little banking at all, 6 degrees. And this is that long straightaway. When you look, you can't even really see turn 1 when you come off turn 3. It's that far down there.
No, Steve said it, 3,700 feet all the way down there. You can take Bristol, unwrap it, put it out here on the front straightaway, and still come up short. I mean, it's way on down there. Car looks like it's working fairly well compared to last time, Steve.
Let's go to Ralph.
Steve, down here in the number 29 garage stall, that's where you find Kevin Harvick, and he's having brake issues. As you guys have been talking about, some of the longest straightaways you'll find anywhere. Tons of speed when you get to the far end of turn, the front straightaway down to turn number 1. And you want to have that brake right there. And he's talking about the pedal going all the way to the floor. A very uncomfortable feeling. The rest of the guys running around the car working on the setups and stuff. He's like, guys, don't worry about the setup. Give me some brakes.
Yeah, I mean, I think back a couple, 3 years ago, Jeff Gordon going off into turn 1 when he basically ran out of brakes and hit that turn 1 wall. And while we're looking at Kevin Harvick making his 300th career Sprint Cup Series start here this weekend.
Well, and Larry, we were on board with Dale Earnhardt Jr. You hear that engine running wide open going into turn 1. You've got to have brakes going down there.
Oh, you're screaming.
Yeah.
And the next thing is you hear the engine screaming, and if you don't have brakes, guess what you hear scream next?
The driver.
The driver.
And this is going down the Long Pond Straight. And as we head into turn 2, most of the drivers will tell you this is probably one of the most challenging corners of all of Sprint Cup Series racing. You're carrying so much speed there, and there's not a tremendous amount of banking there. 8 degrees. This is up the short chute, and this heads back to turn 3, which in my mind just goes forever and ever and ever with no banking. You see Dale Earnhardt Jr. on that new strip of asphalt.
It looks a lot better. At least right now it looks like the front end's gripping where it wasn't doing it before, Steve.
We're going to go to break and let you listen to that big motor scream here at Pocono Raceway. Stay with us. Glad you're with us this morning here on Speed. Take a look at Mark Martin. Been second here on 6 occasions, looking for his first visit to victory lane. 44 starts. His record here, though, even though he has not been to victory lane, is unbelievable. You talked about the second place finishes, Steve. How about 19 top 5s, 31 top 10s, and he's finished on the lead lap in 36 of those 44 races.
33 in the tunnel, and about neutral down there in 3.
Mark right now is 12th quickest. He's run a total of 7 laps. Lindsay.
Guys, Juan Pablo Montoya is getting set now back in his car. He's one guy, obviously, you know, is going to be very honest with you about how he feels the car is. He's not too happy. They actually did what they say is a half a lap in this practice run, but he said it's just way, way too tight. So his crew diligently working, trying to get him to a place where Juan feels like this car is satisfactory. Ralph?
Good. Well, the number 7 usually is driven by Robbie Gordon, but right now it's being driven by Travis Quapple. How come you're here?
Well, I guess Robbie's doing the Baja 500 in Mexico, I guess. I didn't really pay attention where he's at, but he's not here. So Robbie and the guys here at Team Robbie Gordon Motorsports asked me to practice and qualify the car, and yesterday was a washout. So just got a few laps in the car right there, and you know, just kind of taking it conservative. I got nothing to prove, don't need to wreck this thing, but I'm impressed. The car feels pretty decent. You know, we're going to keep working on it, try and get some more speed out of it and get it driving good, but overall, I'm pretty pleased with it so far.
The guys upstairs are noticing a lot of the cars bottoming out. Can you explain why that is this early in the session?
Well, Pocono is just a really rough racetrack, got a lot of bumps in it, and we want to run really soft springs to keep the front end down. So it's just a matter of getting the right bump stop package to keep the splitter off the ground. And we want the splitter as low as we can, so you know, it's just a matter of getting that worked out where you get just the right amount of bump stop to hold the splitter off the track.
All right, Travis, thanks. Good luck to you today. And, you know, guys, it was kind of interesting in chatting with Travis here. I said, you know, Robbie, being a one-car operation, he's got a lot of good stuff, doesn't he? He said, man, the cars are beautiful. You look around, the people he's got working for him, he's really starting to put together a pretty good operation here with the number 7.
He has some good equipment. You know, he made the move to Toyota at the beginning of the season, and just biggest thing Robbie Gordon needs is some luck. You know, he had a great run at Lowe's Motor Speedway with a great strategy call, and then had the penalty, the fine after the race because of rear end tow, but they have appealed that, and I think it will be heard by the appeal board this coming Tuesday.
A.J. Allmendinger in the 44, right now 19th.
kind of get down in the corner. If I rolled too much speed in, it would just really take off on me and keep going. Just never really took a step. That second lap, it's like it helped through turn 1 a bit, but like through 2 and 3, it's just tighter. So.
And Steve, I mean, what you're hearing there is the challenges of this racetrack, and the fact that 1 and 2 is different than 3. I mean, you know, you have to chase this racetrack and kind of attack it in all different approaches, because, you know, the speed you carry into 1 is not the same speed you carry into turn 3, but at the same time, it is such a challenging little racetrack that we watch right now. Jamie Murray, who's currently 5th, watch the car as it goes down in that corner. I mean, it just kind of bounces down into the corner. That's how rough it is. And you're carrying, like, you know, almost 200 miles an hour down in there. Average lap around here is over 165 miles an hour. So, I mean, you're cooking around this racetrack.
Well, and Jeff, I was talking about how they run high and keep that thing up high off the exit of turn 1 to keep the engine wound up because the RPM gets so low. Another reason is it's you heard Travis Quapple talk about how rough and bumpy it is. In turn 1, it's real bumpy at the bottom, so a lot of cars are trying to drive around those bumps up in the second group.
Lindsay has an update on the defending champion of this race.
I do, standing by here with Casey Kane while his crew works on his car a bit. What are your thoughts right now? Is this as good a car as you had last time to get that win?
It's not quite that good, but that's how we started, was how we raced last year. And things are a little bit different, so we're just making a lot of small changes to our Budweiser Dodge, but it feels decent so far.
And you'll be starting 14th. How much of a trick is that going to be for you to kind of get yourself up there, being the track position is so important?
Well, this place is, you know, track position is important, but it gets spread out too. So, you know, you get into some runs, have some green flag stops and things. You can make up spots fairly easily here, I think, and we're going to be starting 2 wide all day long anyways with the new rules. So it'll be exciting. It'll be good.
I know you guys have been talking about it a lot, but what are your thoughts on the new rule?
I think it's good. I mean, you're going to race with the cars. If you're a lap down, you're going to race with the guys that are a lap or 2 laps down. And if you're on the lead lap, you're racing with the cars that you're racing, and it's, to me, that's better. Right now, you know, in the past, last week at Dover, I'd start, say, 10th, and I raced the guys on the inside of me. You know, I didn't get to the guy in 9th for 30 laps, and that's who you want to be racing, is the cars around you. So I think it makes a lot of sense and should make for a little bit more action as well.
I know you got to go jump in your car, but what are you guys tweaking right now?
Springs and, I don't know, something else in the front, but pretty normal stuff.
All right, Casey Kane, trying to make improvements here.
Now, Jeff, what's interesting about this Richard Petty Motorsports team, they have the 4 cars. We documented last week that they ran the new Dodge engine for the very first time in the 9 car. That's the first time Richard Petty Motorsports has had it. Penske has been running it all year long in all 3 of their cars. They do not have the new Dodge engine here at Pocono. Right now, they're kind of on an alternating week schedule. They'll have it next week at Michigan. They will not race it at Daytona or the road course, but their hopes is by the time we get to New Hampshire, late June, that they will be running it full time, not only in the 9 car, but the other Richard Petty cars.
Why is that, Larry? Is it an inventory issue or reliability?
It's been getting the parts and pieces, and I think they have just been reluctant. I think they wanted to see how it went for the Penske group, but you know what? It didn't take long for me to realize it was the right way to go, especially when you look what Kurt Busch did to the field at Atlanta.
Definitely so, and you take a look right there, the 42 car finally got on the racetrack. He's only run 2 laps, guys, and he's 39th. And let's take a look at what's going on with this car second time out. Coming across the tunnel turn, and you can see him right here. That car is loose across that part of the racetrack.
And that will not work at this racetrack, the speeds you're carrying.
Monday night, Michael Waldrop explained why it's called the tunnel turn.
Let me guess, there's a tunnel underneath it?
I said, that's a great insight, Michael. Thank you. Tomorrow on Speed, NASCAR Race Day roars into Pocono. It's a can't-miss event as Tony Stewart and Casey Kane join the Race Day crew live. Plus, get an exclusive look into Dale Jr.'s first weekend without Tony Eury Jr. It's all part of NASCAR Race Day, built by the Home Depot. That's tomorrow at 10:30 Eastern. Back underway, we had a brief caution for debris down in turn 1.
You know, I'm looking at the scoring monitor right now, and a car that catches my eye, and we had him on our trackside show last night, is Casey Mears. Right now, Casey Mears is sitting there 8th quickest, by far the fastest Richard Childress car, a lot like he was at Dover. I get a feeling that things are starting to really click between him and Todd Berry. It's been a little over a month since that swap of the teams that Richard did, and you can almost talk to Casey and feel, you can sense that he's got a comfort level right now. Had a good run at Dover, had a good run at Darlington a few weeks ago, actually had a good run at Richmond, had some bad luck, but looks like things are coming together, Jeff.
Well, I had a chance to talk to Todd Berry the other day, and he feels the same way about his driver right now. You know, they made some changes there. He was with Kevin Harvick to begin with. Now he's working with Casey, and he said the thing that he's really enjoyed a lot about working with Casey is the fact that Casey's got an open mind, willing to try things. And on the other side, Casey Mears told me after trackside last night what he loves about Todd Berry, he believes it. And he said that confidence right now that he believes in me, we're working together to try to get this thing put back where it needs to be, has given me a new shot of confidence, and I think it's proven out on the racetrack right now. That's really good.
Well, speaking of that rapport, how about David Rudiman and Rodney Childers? They got their first career wins at the range-short Coca-Cola 600, then backed it up with a pole position at Dover.
Yeah, but this is the group that I go back to the top of the show, and I was talking about the group that's basically 6th through 17th in points. Right now, after finishing 18th at Dover, they are 13th in the points, 31 points out of the top 12. I talked to Rodney Childress, and David Rudiman would tell you the same thing. In those 13 races to go, we have 2 road course races. And they're nervous about those road course races because David has not done a lot of road course racing. So they know that's where they've got to capitalize on good, solid finishes at those 2 races in particular.
And you need to point out, too, Larry, and no disrespect to David Rudiman, but he did not get an opportunity to improve his road course skills last year because they took him out of that car during those 2 road course races and put in basically a road course racer.
I bet if they had that to do over again, they wouldn't do it because of the position he's sitting in right now.
Well, hindsight's 20/20, but I really believe that they're going to do everything possible to give him an opportunity to go places like Road Atlanta, VIR, and everything to be able to get some road course experience, and they're going to let him, you know, go out there and do the best he can. And so far, the one thing I love about David Rudiman is that you give him a challenge, he steps up, he accepts the challenge, and he does really well with it. He's matured a lot as a driver, and I think he'll do just fine by the time he gets to Sonoma.
Lindsay has an update on Juan Pablo Montoya.
Yeah, Steve, I do. Right now, he's kind of simmering down a little bit because he's a little bit upset with his car. He said that anything you want, basically, you've got it. That's what's wrong with it. He said it's feeling way, way loose, but then basically transfers between just no balance that they can seem to find. So right now, his crew is really working to make the adjustments that's going to put a smile on his face, Steve.
I mean, this is almost where you just almost stop and regroup. We've got about 10 minutes, 11 minutes left in this practice, and try to make sure that you're ready to go, especially when the track opens for that next practice.
And this is something we've kind of touched on at the very beginning. 2 short practices. If you're off like that right there, all of a sudden you feel like you've been put in a pressure cooker because you don't have a lot of time to fix something. 1 more practice to go, and you're as far out as Juan Pablo is. And this should be a racetrack for him that he would be great in. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just enough of a similarity. As Darrell called it, a roval.
A roval. It's not a road course. It's not an oval. It's a roval.
It's one of these really, really unique racetracks we talk about. But for Juan Pablo Montoya, I'm sure right now this kind of struggle is not what he anticipated. Just 2 laps on the racetrack.
Pocono's been a bit of a struggle for this guy, Kyle Busch, in the 18 car. 8 starts here, just 2 top 10 finishes, and he's only led a total of 2 laps
Feels
here.
like it made it a little bit tighter center and spread it a little sooner and longer.
Well, as soon as that second practice is over, he's going to leave here, head down to Nashville for the Nationwide Series race tonight. He was in the media center yesterday, and right now he's 10th quickest. He's run a total of 12 laps, but he was in the media center. If you go back a year ago, he ran the Truck Series race on Friday night in Texas. He came back here and actually had a crash coming off turn 3 that ended up on pit road on Saturday morning. Ran a Nationwide Series race, came here and crashed on the front straightaway on Sunday. They asked him what he thought about doing the triple duty a year ago. He said, it was pretty stupid, but I had to learn.
Yeah, finished dead last here 1 year ago. Jimmy Johnson still the fastest, followed by Ryan Newman, Tony Stewart, and Denny Hamlin. Next Saturday on Speed, the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series races into the Irish Hills. Last year, Eric Darnell captured victory by just 5/1000ths of a second.
Hang on, we got a spin right here on the back straight. Here comes Tony around.
Tony Stewart goes around.
Oh.
35 minutes into this practice.
Tell you what, there's a lot of damage to the front end of that car. You can see the left front fender, the entire splitter destroyed.
And he never made contact.
You can see all the duct work right there that's tore up. See what happened.
Just got loose on him, Larry. Sitting there watching as Steve was reading that promo.
Coming off turn
coming
2.
around.
And he's third quickest. He's run a total of 11 laps.
Ooh.
And that right there is what did all the damage. You can see part of the splitter just completely came off.
It's been a good racetrack for Tony Stewart, too. He's got a win here.
And Larry, I hate to say it, but I mean, I think grass makes a racetrack look real pretty, but it sure would have helped Tony Stewart out if that part right there had been asphalt instead of what it is. You can see clearly when he had that little crossover.
When he made that transition from grass to asphalt.
It just, and I've seen that get guys upside down. You've been a part of that, I think, before here.
1992.
On board.
He had picked the throttle back up, and right there.
Just broke traction.
Yep, I mean, he was well in the throttle coming off the exit of the tunnel turn, and there's going to be a lot of work to do to that 14 car to get ready for this next practice session.
Tony Stewart has finished 7th or better in 6 of his last 7 races here at Pocono. Also the points leader, but they've got work to do. Stay with us here on Speed. Under caution here at Pocono. 37 minutes into a 45-minute practice, Tony Stewart loses control at Office Depot Chevrolet.
All right, let's talk about what's going on there. You see the gentleman to the right that has the bottle of water in his hand? That's competition director John Darby. A team just can't make the decision we're going to go to a backup car. NASCAR has to deem that the car is not repairable. But guys, there's a tough decision on Darian Grubb and that group, because remember, the field was set by points. They're on the pole. They go to a backup car, they go all the way back to 43rd, but it looks like there's a lot of damage on that car that he just spun out with, Jeff.
Well, I mean, we're looking at what we can see. I'm more concerned about what you can't see underneath that race car. Has it damaged the frame itself? Has it upset as far as the steering linkage? Remember now, these cars are front steer cars, so that steering linkage is sitting right in that area would hit the asphalt just like that front nose did. So how much of that got tore up? And you know, again, we looked at Bobby Hutchins and crew chief, everybody's right now looking around. These are NASCAR officials right now trying to determine, is this car repairable, or should we allow these guys to go to a backup? Be interesting to see.
Well, if they tried to fix this car, that next practice is only about 30 or 40 minutes away. They would spend that entire practice repairing this car. So essentially they would be done with practice. I'm hearing that they are going to the backup car.
Let's take another look here. The car's spinning around. He comes across, leaves the racetrack, dips down in the grass section, and boom. I mean, they're again right into that grass bank that led up to the other road. And that's what did all the damage. There was, I mean, he never touched the asphalt. That was all just because of a dirt bank. You can clearly see that knocked the hole in the radiator. That's where that steam is coming from. The radiator's busted. I mean, there's a lot of damage that has to be repaired. I mean, even if everything was, nothing else was hurt cosmetically, it would take probably, what, 3 hours minimum maybe to fix this car?
At least. I think they'd spend the rest of the day until the garage closed and then some getting this car back together. But Jeff, you're absolutely right. Grass is beautiful, but it doesn't need to be nowhere around a racetrack. We need asphalt everywhere.
Now, the deepest this race has ever been won, the worst starting position, Carl Edwards won from 29th, 2005.
But it's a situation like this. We're going to have to wait and see where the double file restart could actually make a difference. So, Ralph.
Go ahead, Ralph.
We're down here with Tony Stewart. Tony, can you tell me what happened?
I just spun off the tunnel turn there and didn't hit anything. I just slid off in the grass, but I hit the right front of the splitter with, against one of the access roads or something, and it ripped the whole nose off of it.
How do you adjust to the backup car now? A lot of people who don't do what you do wonder how different it is from the race car to the backup car. Are you fairly confident in your backup machine?
Yeah, I mean, you look at how Jeff Gordon ran last week, and and ended up with a bad part there for a little bit, but had a good car, and we'll be the same thing. This car will be good too. It's just the time that we're losing on the racetrack right now.
All right, they're getting the car ready to go. Tony's confident. He doesn't feel like there's anything to worry about with this car, guys. And I talked to him as soon as he walked over here. He says, I'm fine, everything's okay. We'll just get to work on it.
Well, the good thing about it to me, Ralph and Steve and Larry, is the fact that, you know, Tony's a champion. He understands this is sometimes things that happens to you. It's not the first time he's ever crashed a car in a situation like this. I mean, I've watched him do this thing in Chicago or someplace. He crashed early in the practice and came back and had a really good run. So, I mean, it's more the frustration level than anything else. They'll be just fine. There you see Bobby Hutchins right there. He's going to pump his driver up. He's a general manager over there, competition director. It's just like you say, the loss of time more than anything else. But if NASCAR works with them, don't be surprised if you don't see this 14 car roll out on that next practice session. Maybe 5 or 10 minutes late, but they'll get the majority of it in.
And Steve, what I meant by this new double file restart shootout style could make a difference. I think it's going to change some crew chiefs' thinking structure on strategy. It's like Casey Kane told Lindsay, I know now if I stay on the lead lap, I'm going to be right up there in amongst those guys that I'm going to be racing every restart.
Which makes his charge to the front that much shorter.
Yes, sir.
Guys are watching right now.
Check his front bump stops and see if he's over one or something. This is all I can do. 10-4, yeah, he's a little different than we are.
He is actually following his teammate Jeff Gordon, trying to figure his race car out by gauging it off the 24. And you heard some of the conversation right there between Alan Gustafson and Mark Martin about, you know, find out what he's doing compared to me, because my car is doing this, and this is all I can do.
Hey, Russell Wedrick, our statistician, just gave me a very interesting note here. 3 times in 2009, a race has been won with drivers going to the rear. Matt Kenseth at Daytona, Brad Keselowski at Talladega, and in Las Vegas, Kyle Busch.
And so when we get to Michigan, what Tony Stewart would love to have Russell hand you is a note that says 4 times in 2009.
There you go.
But you heard Alan Gustafson, Mark Martin's crew chief, immediately tell Mark he is different, because those guys, that's the one thing that Hendrick does a phenomenal job. I think it's the one thing that might make a difference with Dale Earnhardt Jr., with Lance McGrew being over there. I think they do as good a job of any team of really sharing in moving around the information on their race cars.
Well, right now, Mark may not like his race car, but he's able to keep pace right now with Jeff Gordon. And Jeff's running a pretty good pace right now. He's 5th quickest, and while Mark is still back there, he's like 12th quickest, but he's keeping pace with his teammate.
And unless they've done something with tires,
55,
Jeff,
43, 55 on him.
they're pretty equal on laps run.
Right.
Mark Martin has actually run 13 laps. Jeff Gordon has run 14.
But Larry, look at the 2 different lines that they're running through. Turn 1, for example, Mark's running the low, more conventional line we used to see him run, or we've seen in the past. Jeff is up about probably about a car width or more, another lane through 1, and it looks like maybe that's where he's pulling him just a little bit down that Long Pond straightaway off of turn 1.
And you know, Steve, we had Jeff Gordon on our trackside show as well, and they certainly know that they've got work to do with this 24 car. He fell back to 2nd in the points after Dover, but when you look at their first 7 races of 2009, 6 top 10s, including that win at Texas, but the last 6 races, only 2 top 10 finishes.
Red and black flags. Practice is over. The first 2 here in Pocono. Jimmie Johnson quickest throughout this practice. We'll be right back to wrap things up for Pocono. Is this final segment? Back at Pocono, you see the work continuing on that, or what's left of Tony Stewart's car. The crewmen running over to the garage to work on the backup car.
Well, like Jeff and I were talking during commercial break, you know, the springs, the shocks, the things that were in that primary 14 car, and obviously they're pretty good. They'd run 11 laps, their 3rd quickest. They need to be a little tighter, of course, but I'd say they're going to start pretty close to that, so why not just go grab your springs and shocks off that primary and put them right on this backup?
Yeah, and again, you've got a short period of time. You see team members from the 39 car, Ryan Newman, working with them. They know what they're trying to get accomplished. The key thing is they just got a short period of time for this to really get taken care of. And if NASCAR works with them, which I believe they will, and I'll say it again, I look for this 14 car. It won't lose a whole lot of track time in the second practice, but the key thing is if it's close as that first car was, they'll probably fine-tune it pretty good. And Tony Stewart, even though he may have to start in the back, Steve, we've already documented, he would have an excellent chance of making his way back up to the front.
Yeah, NASCAR will go through the safety part of the inspection, and maybe after that second practice put it through the rest of the inspection, like checking the engine and things.
Engine templates, all that stuff right there. The car will still have to go through that, but they'll work with you on it.
3 Chevrolets atop the top 10, Jimmy Johnson, Ryan Newman, and Tony Stewart.
See a couple of Joe Gibbs Toyotas there, and they ran the most laps of anybody. Denny Hamlin ran 17 laps. Kyle Busch ran 18.
And I'm still impressed right now with Casey Mears and what Todd Berry are doing right there at 07 car 8.
Fastest Dodge, Casey Kane, he's 14th. Stay with us here on Speed.